everyone. Today we are going to talk about asking and answering questions while we read. And we're going to read a book called Big Dilly's Tale. So let's review asking and answering questions. So we did this, I think, a week ago, maybe two. But when should we ask questions? Before we read, during reading, and after reading, right? There's always time to ask questions if we don't know or if we're just curious, right? So why do we ask questions? We ask them to get more information. They help us understand the text better when we ask questions. And we're able to practice being awake and thinking while reading, right? If our brain is working and we're reading, we might have some questions, right? We might wonder about things that we're reading about. So it helps us stay awake and to be curious and wonder as we read. Sometimes we just want to know things. So how do we ask questions? We use question words to ask. So we use who, what, where, why, when, and how. Those are all question words. And then to answer them, we look around in the text and pictures for evidence or details. That helps us answer our questions to look for that evidence. All right, so let's move on to our book. Our book is called Big Dilly's Tale. It is by Gail Carlson Levine. That is our author. That is who wrote our book. And it's illustrated by Jui Ishida. That's who drew all the pictures, our illustrator. All right, so let's go back. And talk about this. So this book is a fairy tale. And fairy tales are old stories that have made up characters and events that could not happen. So if you're thinking you're reading a fairy tale, you want to look for phrases like once upon a time, or maybe if it has a super happy ending, that's probably a fairy tale. Let's also set a purpose for our reading. So we want to remember to ask questions before, during, and after we read to help us understand the text and to get information. And in order to answer those questions, we need to remember to look for evidence in the text and pictures so that we can answer our questions. All right, let's go back to the cover. So Big Dilly's Tale. Let's make some predictions about what we think this book's going to be about. So look at the cover and think, what do I think this book is going to be about? And remember, we're going to go back to that prediction later, so keep it in mind. All right, let's start reading. Once upon a time, Dilly was a big duckling with a big beak. A duck called him ugly. Well, that's not very nice. So, before, during, and after I read, I ask myself questions about the story. As I read, I ask myself questions about things I don't understand. I read that a duck called Dilly was ugly, so I need to ask myself, why does the duck think Dilly is ugly? Right? I look at the pictures and I see if I can answer my own question. So, and it does. I think the duck says that Dilly is ugly because Dilly looks different from the other ducks. Look, he is really big and he does have a bigger beak and he's a different color, right? So all these other ducks think, oh, you're weird. You're ugly, right? Because he's different. So let's keep reading. His friend Mina called him cute. Dilly splashed. Splat! And he says, honk, ha ha. And this duck says, quack, ha ha. All right. Let's keep going. One day, Dilly paddled fast for fun. But when he turned, he was alone and lost and afraid. The next morning, a chilly wind blew. Dilly wished for Mina. So let's ask ourselves a question. Why is Dilly alone? So maybe he's alone because Mina couldn't swim as fast as Dilly could. And maybe Dilly was having so much fun that he wasn't paying attention and didn't realize where he was going or that no one was following him, right? So what do you think Dilly will do now? Make a prediction. What do you think he's going to do? All right, has everyone made their predictions? Let's keep going. Then Dilly saw a girl. She led him to her farm. So real quick, in case someone doesn't know, a farm is a piece of land where crops grow and animals live. So this girl probably thinks it's normal that animals are following her because she lives on a farm. The barn was warm. Dilly found a nest just his size. He lived at the farm for many weeks. So, what questions might you ask about this part of the book? Okay, any question you want. What do you think? So maybe some of our questions were, what does Dilly do at the farm? Or maybe, will Dilly ever see Mina again? Will he ever go back and see all the other ducks? I don't know. So, now that we have our questions, I want you to think about how can we answer these questions? Okay, so maybe we can keep reading to figure out our answers. Maybe we can look for details in the text when we read or in the pictures that we look at. So let's see if we can answer our own questions. When spring came, Dilly went to find Mina. He saw the ducks. He saw swans. Interesting. So real quick, spring is the season that comes after winter, right? And before summer. It's a time of year when plants begin to grow. So that's when the spring is. Dilly looked at himself. Oh, he saw a swan. Dilly was not a duck after all. Mina said he was still cute. So, let's think about this page. What does Dilly learn on this page? So Dilly learns that he's a swan, not a duck. Right? So how are swans and ducks alike? How are they different? So let's think about how they're similar. Well, ducks and swans both swim, and they both have beaks. And how they're different is swans are bigger than ducks, right? And they were different colors. Dilly wasn't the same color as the ducks. So there's some similarities and differences. Honk, ha-ha, quack, ha-ha. Dilly played with the swans and Mina and the other ducks. He lived happily ever after. Remember, there's our happy ending. That tells us it's a fairy tale. All right, so after reading the story, I ask questions to be sure I understand what I read. So I ask, what was the story mostly about? What did the character learn? Right? If I'm not sure how to answer these questions, I need to go back at the text and look at the pictures and text to help me answer them. So, what questions do you have about this story? Right? Any questions? What questions do you have? So now that you have these questions in your head, how will you answer your questions? What can you do to find the answers to those questions? So now, let's go back to our prediction. Was your prediction right? Was it wrong? And that's okay. Sometimes books go a different way than we think. So think about your prediction about if it was right or wrong. All right. So now, I want you to tell me the key details of the story and the order in which the events happened. So I want you to tell me what happened first in the story, what happened at the beginning. I want you to tell me what happened next in the middle. And I want you to tell me what happened last at the end of the story. Great job, guys. Thank you so much for reading with me. Have a good day.